Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining today's webinar and why investing in your tech stack in a downturn is a must. My name is Alex, and I'm on the marketing team here at Bullhorn. I'd like to cover a quick couple of housekeeping notes before we begin. First of all phones will be muted during today's presentation, but we strongly encourage you to ask questions in the question pane that's on the right-hand side of your screen. We'll get to as many questions as possible before the end of the session. Today's webinar will be recorded and you'll receive a copy of the recording within the next 24 hours. And we should wrap up in about 45 minutes. And with that, I'd like to welcome today's presenters. Melissa, take it away.
Great. Thanks, everyone. So I am Melissa Rosen. I probably know a good amount of you on the call. I run our Bullhorn Consulting Services team. I've been with Bullhorn for 13 years, and before that, have spent many years, not going to put the number, in the staffing industry in a lot of different roles, as well as being a Bullhorn customer before that. With me, I also have Gail Hartley, who leads our team in EMEA, so we'll be working on this discussion together. It was really important that we took the time to reach out to clients and prospects and talk a little bit about some of our experiences that we've had and how we're really helping clients to weather the storm and come out of it shining at the end of the day. So what we really wanted to talk through today is talk a little bit about today's landscape. I don't want to spend a ton of time on that because we are all pretty well aware of what's going on, but really focus on what are some lessons we learned in 2008 and 2009. I've been at Bullhorn for 13 years, so I was here in the most recent recession at Bullhorn. I started in staffing in the first recession, so I definitely lived the life of here's a pile of resumes, no jobs, find jobs for these people. So I've been on both sides of the fence and bring together some knowledge and some lessons learned that hopefully you guys can utilize. Then we really want to talk about what are some reasons to invest and open up that opportunity path. And Gail is really going to talk about some details on how to utilize your team to do that, as well as we've gotten a lot of questions over the past couple months from both prospects and clients who are concerned about really getting a project off the ground, especially virtually in this new world we're living in. This is not something we are new to, especially in North America. In North America, we have run a lot of virtual programs just by the cultural nature of there are branch offices all over the States, and it's hard to get people into one location. In EMEA, it's been less like that, so it is a bigger change for EMEA. Although for everyone, it is different having the inability to at least come together for a few key meetings. So we have some really good things we want to just share, and certainly we're going to open it up to questions. So as you guys get questions, please use that questions panel. We put enough time in there so we can certainly answer as much as we can, and if we can't get to them, we will certainly respond back pretty quickly for you. So I wanted to kick off with, where are we at today and what are those lessons learned? I think we're pretty familiar with what's going on today. It's really an uncertain environment, and we are not unprecedented at this point. We are really dealing with virtual work, people having to change, certain industries suffering versus other, and having to be very agile and having to pivot. And certainly 2009 was a very different scenario. For some companies, they're experiencing things they never experienced back in 2009. But one of the things is still going to hold true. In every recession we've always seen that staffing gets hurt first. But the good news of that, we come back stronger and faster. In fact, I remember years ago when Art first started getting the details on our user data starting to jump up incredibly, he literally made everyone recheck these numbers 3 times. He didn't believe that in a matter of a couple months, we were starting to see our user counts not only go back to where they were, but increasing higher. So out of nowhere, all this work came in, which is great. But what are some things we can do now so that we're ready? Because you're already probably thinking a variety of different things and what are some different paths we can take. There are some great studies that we have that if you haven't seen these, we're sending it out with the deck. There were a good year-long study that was done to really evaluate companies, 4,700 actual companies, where they dug into this to come up with how do you survive a recession, and not just survive it, but how do you thrive and become bigger, and helping people kind of prepare for the next economic turndown. Now, if some of you are like, great, thanks, Melissa, the economic turndown is, already here, I can't plan ahead, that's fine. We're still in the middle of it. So I think there's an opportunity to still take some action and help you guys with some of those things. So the meat of what those studies really were was, of these 4,700 companies, 17% didn't survive at all. They just ended up having to file for bankruptcy and close their doors. 80% of them never regained their pre-recession growth for sales and profit even 3 years after the recession. But 9% flourished after a slowdown. In fact, they outpaced their rivals in terms of about 10%. So the focus here is, how do we become those 9%? And frankly, how do we make that 9% much higher this time around? How do we learn from these companies? So what did these companies do differently? What they didn't do is they didn't immediately switch to survival mode. They didn't immediately go to cutting people. They didn't react defensively. Instead, they acted early, but by acting early, they started laying out, what do we want to look like 2 years from now? And how do we work backwards? They still did not lose sight of what should long-term look like. They did not think short-term. So they were focused on growth and not just cost cutting, which is sometimes hard to do. But if you can step away from survival mode and start thinking about, okay, let's forget we're in the world we're in now. What do we want to look like? And then scale that back accordingly. We know that our companies won't be the same 2 years from now, but what does success still look like, and how do we work backwards from there? And really look at that large scale change, so that when things do come back up, you are ahead of the game. You're not running ragged looking for, how are we filling these job orders? We've got short staff, we don't have enough recruiters. You're feeling the same pains you felt in January. So thinking about, where were you in January and how were things going? How do you fix what wasn't working at the end of last year and use that opportunity to make some changes? I think investing in technology is certainly a big way. I think there's two big avenues. It's investing in technology and also making sure that you're not just shifting and lifting technology with bad process. So it's really making sure, okay, well, we're just going to plug in this software and it's going to fix everything. That won't be the only way to do it. So it's important to think about, what is the right technology, and is it going to map to the strategic goals you want to have? So it still is planning what makes the most sense. When I look at what are the reasons, some big ones are thinking about analytics. Do you have the analytics you need to make decisions, to identify your business opportunities, to understand where your slack is, where your pipeline is, where your run rate is? If you don't have that now, that is a big reason to invest in technology. If all you have are some basic metrics, or some metrics at the end, being those lag metrics versus the lead metrics that tell you something is going to be a problem, analytics is really the way to make sure that you can drive a good business. Technology can certainly help you with that. And I think the other thing technology can do is to help cut costs through not just productivity, but through, if there's outsourcing options from a technology standpoint, but using some of those resources instead of doing manual work to be able to do more productive work, to do more sourcing, some of those entry-level activities as well. A lot of times reskilling is a great opportunity when it comes with technology. The other thing is, investments make you more agile. I think we've had a lot of companies realize, and I've had a lot of interesting conversations about, frankly, adoption not even being a problem anymore, because people had to use this system and suddenly were, wow, I had no idea Bullhorn had all these tools. It was like Christmas every day. And we've really, a lot of our teams have really been helping current clients to re-embrace some of the technology that's there that is making a huge difference. For example, whiteboards. People were very used to the world of the whiteboard. Wait, we don't have the whiteboard anymore. We can't huddle, we can't meet. How do we replace the concept of a whiteboard? So there's a lot of features within the current core Bullhorn, as well as some of our other marketplace products that can help drive some efficient meetings so that you're not losing that in-person touch or the workflow that might have been more manual outside of the system. So those are three big reasons to look at that. I think reductions in headcount, it's inevitable. It's one of those things where we know it emerges. It's an extremely difficult decision that has to be made. Many of you are familiar with Bullhorn, had to make some of those choices last week. But the idea is to really look at everything before you get to there. Thinking about how can you become more lean from an operation standpoint? So how are we over processing and we're not getting things quicker? And what is something that we could do to replace some of these functions with technology or with our partners so we can retain those revenue generating folks? Your top talent, and we've actually seen this and heard this from clients, some of our top talent is actually leaving voluntarily and getting other jobs. So not only do you need to make sure your top talent feels secure, you have to make sure they're busy and they're helping you with things, but that if they are doing some manual work, taking that off them so they can focus more on productive and revenue generating activities is also something that is something that makes a big difference to them. So one of those things really is headcount is going to be inevitable, but it's really looking at the entire team. Where can you redeploy? Where can you reskill? What are some things? A downturn is a really great opportunity to take a step back and really make some interesting choices that you might not have had that lens 6 months ago. I personally know that's what our team has been doing, is really the past 6 months looking at, well, why don't we do it this way? Maybe that makes sense, and trying new things out and realizing that we were definitely stuck in a rut in certain areas, and different technology is certainly enabling us where we weren't using it before. So a few examples of some companies, I think when you look at a few that really made a big difference back in 2009, Airbnb got VC funding right in 2009. I think about Bullhorn in 2009, we got our funding right around that time. It was almost, as we would call it, significant timing. But Airbnb really made a difference and had explosive growth. Amazon did not halt their technology progress. They decided to still continue making new products. And in making new products, they actually increased their sales by 25%. And I think from a technology standpoint, this is something that I thought was really interesting and a good comment that stuck with me on Harvard Business Review, which was the technological process is not going, that progress is not going to stop. New technology is going to keep going at the pace it's going. And in some industries, even faster than before, especially in healthcare. So if we halt because of other reasons, that technology is going to be even further ahead. So it's really looking at, we don't want to be that far behind, knowing that technology is going to continue to progress at the pace it is. One of the things is looking at staffing. So this is great. Airbnb, Amazon doesn't really apply to us. How did the staffing companies compare? So when I took a look at the SIA group from 2008 and 2009, and then looked at their 2010, 3 of the 5 from 2009 not only either stayed the same and held their rank, they elevated themselves to the top 3. And there were 2 big things that I know that these companies did. First off, obvious one, they invested in some technology to reduce manual labor, to make things more efficient, to increase their speed to market, to reduce their overall costs by outsourcing things. But they also looked at pivoting their processes, especially in the sales. When you have a lack of reactive jobs and you are in a client-driven market where you have more clients than you have candidates, you have a different sales tactic than when you have the flip side. In great staffing companies, you should still always have really good sales process, proactive marketing, building your pipeline, so that when this market comes, you are ready for it. And these companies realized we weren't ready, and they made some changes to having more of hunting and farming, to really integrating their sales team with recruiters to manage leads. Back in 2009, one of the biggest things I was part of was helping companies design inside Bullhorn, how do they manage their sales funnel process, their pipelines? How do you get the 2 teams working together? Because they realize, man, we don't have a good sales process. We need to be ready if this happens again, and also not be too far behind the curve and get this done now. Those companies I venture to guess, we're still waiting on data, obviously, will still be able to maintain because they do continue to have a very strong sales pipeline process. So in addition to making sure they're leveraging the best technology, they're also leveraging really good process and being able to pivot and be agile depending on that market. So those are some highlights from looking at from the staffing industry, some specifics. So we know there's still hesitations. I think we've had Gail and myself, certainly, Gail has been very involved in running a lot of these implementations, and our team's role is really to be that concierge for helping with redesigning your workflow, your process, change management, coordinating with training, managing user acceptance testing, all of that touch to ensure that not only is the software going to work functionally, but that it works well and that it makes a difference and increases your revenue and reduces your overall costs. That's our job. It's not just our role is to make sure lift and shift of bad process onto great software doesn't happen, because those two have to be together. So we commonly get, hey, how are we going to do this remotely? Can we implement this? We've got time constraints on resources because we have less people. My workforce is furloughed. How am I going to do this? Or how can I even plan for these resources? It's kind of uncertain. So Gail's really I'm going to hand it over to her because she's really got some good tactics, 4 big key reasons on how to use your staff and why to do this, and then some more tactical information on how do we actually implement this and what are some best practices we have for that. So Gail, I will hand it over to you.
Thanks, Melissa. Thank you. So I'm here to talk to you about the reasons to invest in a technology project now. It's really critical to think strategically. I've worked in the recruitment industry for a number of years. Like Melissa, we're not going to put a number on that. It's a number. And I've seen, downturns, I've seen upturns, I've seen market fluctuations. And what I do know is it's really critical to act. It's very, very easy to put things off, procrastinate, wait to see what happens. But businesses that do that are often led behind. So what we want to do is make sure that, you guys are at least armed with the knowledge to think about things that you could be doing to take your business forward. And I would say probably the first thing is about the way that you handle it. Use this time strategically. Be proactive, not reactive. Don't put your head down and just try and weather the storm. Don't be part of those statistics that failed, because ultimately not acknowledging it or just trying to react to bad things that happen is not the way to success. Instead, use this time to get your house in order, change your processes, change your software, redeploy your best recruiters or consultants and make them effective now during the downturn. You can take advantage of a slow market to put your business in an optimal position, which will actually enable you to bounce back stronger when the upturn begins. And when the market's actually on the up again, this means you'll be able to move quickly and be far more agile because your tech, your business, and your processes have all been updated, implemented, and changed so that when things are actually busy and we're at to that point where nobody has time to breathe or stop, you're actually going to be able to take that market share and push your business forward. That then will allow you to, rebound faster. So companies who invest in tech will actually be prepared and ready to go when the market turns. That means that they'll be able to capture wallet share, like those successful businesses that we saw with the SIA, so that when the economy improves, there's more jobs, people are spending money again, your business isn't actually full of tech debt and you're potentially actually in a weaker position at that point, and we don't want that at all. So what I would do is I would say you need to keep your top employees engaged. And the way to do that is actually to give your best employees, the ones that you want to keep around. So, the people that are influential, they make you money, they're, your key people. You need to give them something meaningful to do. As much as we all have to go to work, some of us love it, some of us not so much. but people need to feel that they're adding value and what they're doing has purpose. So while the business is slow, give them something that they can get their teeth into so that they can stay productive. That will allow you to keep your best talent. After all, these are the people that actually know you and your business better than anybody else. You've spent a long time developing them, training them, encouraging them, working with them. So don't lose them to a competitor when the market improves because they've not actually felt as if they've been valued through the tough times. We all work for corporations or independents, but ultimately we work for and with people. So it's really about making sure that you're a human when you look after them. I currently work with a number of companies who are actually keeping their top performers engaged to actually work with projects. So Melissa was saying I'm dealing with a lot of implementation projects just now. So, they've got key people in their business really integral in that new software implementation. They can then help them drive process improvement because who knows it better than the people that are actually doing the job? And it's allowing those businesses to change now and get ready for the upturn. The other thing you could look to do is take advantage of top talent. So we've spoken about the people within your business, but in a downturn, you can also hire top talent that you normally couldn't get access to if you were in a bull market. So we know it's inevitable that some jobs will have to be lost through a downturn as companies restructure to strengthen their core position. That always happens. We're very aware of it. But it's really critical that you keep an eye on movement in the market and don't look over any top talent that comes your way that you could actually use and bring into your business to help improve and drive more efficiencies and more productivity, which is going to help you achieve those goals and get your business in a great place when you get through the other side. So with that in mind, let's think tactics. It's all very good to say, let's be strategic. We find that, currently most of the world is actually working at home right now. And at Bullhorn, we know firsthand how to create powerful experiences with our customers without actually being in the same office or even in the same continent. Part of the key deliverables that our team is involved in and we support our customers with is discovery and design, UAT, training, go live, which is important, obviously, and then change management and adoption, because there's no point just having the same status quo. Some of the things that we actually do to deliver this, so the solution design is actually the foundation of a successful project. And some of the tools that we use are listed here. So we've got virtual shadowing. It's like a show and tell, reverse demo. We can sit down, get online with somebody and get them to walk us through their process. We can have conversations, basically interview the interviewees. Again, it's very much a role reversal, and it can be quite daunting for some people to take part because they're used to interviewing candidates. And now they're being interviewed by Bullhorn. So we try to make them feel as engaged and as comfortable so that they can be open and honest, and really we can understand their business and their concerns. We use a lot of things, whiteboards, hangouts, video calls. And I personally find that one of the biggest things is the camera on. It's personality. If you want to build a strong relationship with somebody and working in a project, you have to. It's really about building those relationships. So there's some key tips there. The next kind of key milestone in the project is user acceptance testing, so UAT. And this is key to ensure that the solution that's been designed is actually fit for purpose. And in order to test, you need the right people. This is paramount. We need people who will know your business, who know their clients, their candidates, their data. They can look at it and they know what they actually need to do their job effectively. In fact, some of the best testers I've had are the type of people who will just push buttons to see what happens. They've got that inquiring mind, and they won't just follow the script, they'll do their own thing. And when we work with our customers, we'll create scenarios, real life recruitment scenarios that are tailored to fit that business so that when we are actually gaining that feedback and that system knowledge, the users are saying, okay, I can see how this would actually work in the real world for me. We use quite a lot of different tools there. It could be, one-on-one or group sessions, virtual breakout rooms if we've got large teams. Again, engagement and participation is key. So there's times when we set goals or prizes or awards, and some of our clients get really creative with us, so it's pretty cool to see. We don't need to be there, to build that rapport with them. The other aspect is training. Without training, how are you going to actually know how to use the system? So at Bullhorn, we actually deliver remote training to thousands and thousands of users each year. And we use combined methodology of, remote sessions, so with the SMEs, so that they actually can understand or train the trainer. And we also have hands-on learning labs, which people love because it allows the end users to actually go through the system. They're not just being told to click, they're actually using it. They're discovering, they're finding, they're seeing, and they're touching. And they've got that training mentor with them through the whole process who can actually see their screens and see who's doing what, who's wandered off into a different tab, and offer that support and guidance to each user. And we find that really, really effective. It's something we've been doing for years, and it's tried and tested because we know that when we ask people to give up a large chunk of time, they often don't have the commitment. So we're able to break these sessions down into bite-sized, manageable chunks and give them the relevant support that's required. And that leads us on to the big bang, go live. Finally, that's the key milestone. That's what all the projects are about. It's about getting that go live. And to make sure it's a success, people think, how am I going to do this? I can't be on site, I can't have floor walkers, how am I going to be able to help? So we help our clients create a success plan, a strategy for their go live. So it's key go live activities, hour one, day one, week one, set out those milestones so that we can then support them through data analytics. We can actually say, like, this is what's happening, this is what your people are doing, let's target this area or let's support them here. And then they can have their own SMEs. So that's people that are champions and subject matter experts on your systems who can really be there to give them support, their peers, people that they feel comfortable with. We also have set up virtual drop-in rooms. So, period of time, anybody can drop in, dial into a call, ask questions, get support. We have set up structured calls just for SMEs so that we can pull those guys together, have them all come from different parts of the business to share best practices, challenges, just even anecdotes, so that they can then take that information back and pass that to their colleagues. Because ideas sharing is critical. Everybody's going through the same thing. Change can be very, very scary. So it's about supporting and providing, that kind of structure to really help our clients get the best out of their go live situations. And of course, in addition to this, we do daily check-in calls with the project team, check if there's any issues, triage, any training gotchas, and it's pretty much constant. We're there, although we're not physically giving you that presence, and our clients have been very receptive to it. We set up, oh, that's okay. We have, statistics, we look at Q&A sessions and video updates. That's my final point. It's really, really important to engage with your audience. Anybody who's younger than me will be all over YouTube. And videos are a really, really critical part, especially if people are working from home. Just even a 5-minute message from the CEO or the leader of the company, just to give them that information, can make a big, big impact on how things are received and how people adopt the situation. So that leads us on to the key takeaways. So I think the good news is we might all be facing tough times right now, but the staffing industry comes back stronger than ever. So we really just have to make sure that we're doing the right things just now to get your businesses in the right place. You know, be proactive. Don't just wait for things to happen and react. Think about what Melissa said. Where do you want to be in 2 years' time? How are you going to make that happen? Don't wait because your competitors aren't. You know, they're not sitting back. They're sitting thinking about what should I be doing now? If you do that, you'll be able to turn things around much faster than your competitors. You're going to be able to keep your top employees. We often see a big, massive shift in people at the end of a recession. You know, there's far more movement. And you can take advantage of internal or even external people who could be available. At Bullhorn, we've got some tips and hints for you. So the URL's there. It'll be shared with this deck at the end. And we've got some extended time for everybody, aren't you lucky, for questions with myself and Melissa, just to answer any questions or anything that you'd like to ask us about.
Great, thanks, Gail. Yeah, we already have some questions coming in, but I'd encourage anyone else who has questions to go ahead and enter them in the question pane. The first question is, as far as taking advantage of top talent, do you feel that most of the people that are available now were not productive? Or do you feel like there are some good candidates on the market?
Personally, I think there's some great candidates in the market. Decisions have to be made at a strategic level. And sometimes you've got some fantastic people in your business, but they're just not there at the right time for where your business needs to be now. So I would certainly say that, you know, don't discount somebody because they've either been furloughed or they're looking for a new job, or because, you know, they've been laid off in a country that doesn't have that sort of government subsidy. Certainly take every candidate on their merit. Come on, we're all recruiters at heart. You know that if somebody's good, that gut instinct will tell you.
Yeah, I think it's a good comment, Gail. I know that from a North America standpoint, we've had a variety of clients and some non-clients do some deep cuts right away. And there is some definite good talent out there for sure. So I think that, yeah, once a recruiter, always a recruiter. I wouldn't count anyone out. Have that conversation.
Awesome. Another question from someone is that Bullhorn 1 is likely their next investment. Are there any learnings from any Bullhorn 1 implementations that you guys have?
Yeah, so I think some of the biggest things that we've been learning on both sides is on my team specifically, we have folks who have actually really either implemented financial software at their company in a staffing organization, at a consulting firm, or lived the life of payroll billing, so they're pretty familiar with it. Where we see the best success is really looking at the entire process and evaluating for what makes most sense. There's certainly opportunities. Bullhorn 1 is a product, but it doesn't make sense to look at outsourcing any of your payroll or activities to other things. So I think it's looking holistically. Again, what we've learned best from Bullhorn 1, it is definitely not a shift and lift. We really do start with how do you process everything, all the special exceptions you're making for billing. Some of those might not be necessary anymore. So having that open mind and letting the team kind of push and help you with that is good. I think that if you are thinking you need to get your house in order first before you can implement software, we have 3 large companies right now who know they're not going to implement Bullhorn 1 till probably next year because they want to spend this year to clean their house from a process perspective. So our team is literally spending time with them just to help them do that so they're ready to implement the technology faster. So certainly it's making sure that you're ready from a process perspective is probably your best avenue.
Great. Another question we have is, what do remote go lives mean for timing? Does this mean my implementation will be longer?
Certainly not.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Gail, you take it because you've been doing a lot of remote go lives lately for some big firms globally.
Yeah, I mean, results can vary. So some businesses have said, we're going to take advantage of government subsidies in our countries. We're going to furlough half our staff, which means that we've got, 50% of our workforce who are still trying to do all of their jobs and implement a project. So we sit down and say, is this achievable in the timescales? And we've got some clients who have said, no, we don't want to put too much pressure. We want to extend things slightly or start things earlier. We've got other clients who've just said, we're cracking on, and they're ahead of time. So I think that it really depends on the business and what other commitments your people have got. Really, my case is to sit down and really help understand who can do what, when they can do it, just to make sure that the job is done properly. But we genuinely have quite a few projects who are actually ahead of the curve right now, which is fantastic to see in this climate.
Great.
Yeah, I think it's a case of being slower, so taking advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yeah, another person asked, what are some success metrics you look at after a virtual go live?
So there's a number of success metrics that we look for. Ultimately, we want to make sure that people are using it. So we look at click data. First few days are critical, see who's logging in, who's not. Then it's about taking a deeper dive into that and understand, what does it mean? Where are people going? What are they doing? Do they use the productivity tools? I often see that when people have moved from one system to Bullhorn, they didn't use the productivity tools in their previous system, and they're just reluctant to use them in Bullhorn. So we can then use that to say, well, look, this is going to save you 10 clicks, do it this way, or this is going to save you time here if you do it that way. And we can really help businesses improve their user experience and therefore increase their adoption. And the more people that use the system, the more intellectual property and data that you capture about your candidates and your client, and it really does strengthen things. I really like to look at the fast ads, tear sheets, are people using templates or are they having to create from start? And then just look at where people go. I've been able to see that some people still use their old processes in Bullhorn just through looking at the metrics. So it's really, really important that you take the time to either get Bullhorn to go through it with you, or your own BI team, because it can really highlight some bottlenecks or blockages that can be addressed really quickly and really improve the whole experience.
Great. Another question here is, what is the first piece of staffing technology you recommend a company goes for right now after an ATS?
So I think there's a couple. It depends on your makeup of your business. VMS is a common one. If VMS is a lot of what you do, it's low impact with regards to your production team having to spend time to do it. Certainly then when you look at if there's any ways to make your back office a little bit more efficient, certainly looking at if there's outsourcing and payroll options. I think the other thing is looking at metrics and analytics. It's a great time to really dig into. Bullhorn's got some good partners that do some amazing stuff with analytics that can really help you make some predictive decisions. So those are a few good ones that aren't labor intensive but can make an impact outside of the ATS.
Awesome. I see we have one more question here. If anyone has any others, feel free to jot them in now. But this last question is, what are some mistakes you've seen companies make when they've attempted to do all of this virtually?
Gail, you want to grab that one?
Sure. There's a few, let's be honest. So the first thing is really having too big of a project team. I'm sure the younger people listening will hear of FOMO, fear of missing out, and that's really, really important. We have key people within your business who want to be involved in everything. So they sign up, they want to be part of that project team, but actually their talents lie elsewhere. They're strategically important to your business, wherever it might be. So then their commitment to the meetings starts to drop off. So what we tend to see is the information doesn't necessarily get to the right people. There becomes blockages, and there just isn't that flow. So things aren't as productive. There can be a bit of going round and round and round, and that's really not the best way. And while on the subject of information, it's also critical to make sure that there's two-way communication. So coming from the project team out to your business, whether that be execs, your stakeholders there, or just your front end users, to make sure that they're aware of what's going on, because it's a very daunting time. So they need to have that element of updates, what's happened, why, what's going to be happening. And of course, taking that feedback back up the way. I've certainly been involved after companies have gone live, and they've said to me, "Oh, this has never ever worked," and I'm like, "How long has it never worked?" I've been maybe come into a business that hasn't used Melissa or myself's team as part of their implementation, and they're like, "Oh, it's been like this for like ever." Like, did you tell anyone? Yeah, I told my manager, but that manager, either themselves or somebody else, has been that blockage, and it's just not going anywhere. So it's absolutely critical that your people are heard, and the right people are in your project meetings.
Great. Well, we feel like we got to all of the questions, which is awesome. This was super productive. So Gail and Melissa, thank you so much again for coming on here and sharing your expertise. And with that, I'm about to end the webinar. As I said at the beginning, everyone will receive a recording. And if you have any more questions, we'll follow up with you then. Thanks again.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.